Hi, my name is Ashlyn Masco. I'm the Library Director at Great Falls College, Montana State University in Weaver Library. Today I'm going to do an APA-style workshop presentation. This is an online adaptation of the in-person workshop that I do. So during this workshop, I'm going to talk about why we use citation styles, what APA style is, some basic formatting rules, in-text citations, your reference page, and then I will give you information on how to contact me if you have any questions about the topics I cover. So first, why do we cite? We cite to avoid plagiarism. So plagiarism is a major academic honesty offense. A lot of times it could lead to you not being able to complete your degree program. If you're not in college, it could also interfere with your ability to get accepted into a college. We always want to make sure that we're providing appropriate citation when we're doing research and writing papers. We also cite to give credit to the original author. So this author has spent their time writing this article or creating this source that you're using, and we want to give them the credit for that. This helps them establish their credibility as an expert in their topic, and it shows that you respect others and the work and the effort it takes to share research or create essays, artwork, other types of sources that you might cite in a project. We also cite to establish our own credibility, so this proves that you did research on your topic. So when you're in an English class and you're given an argumentative paper assignment, you're not expected to be an expert on the topic that you're arguing about, but it is expected that you go out and you find information about that topic, that you consult information from other experts or authoritative sources on that topic so that you could provide a well-rounded argument that's based in fact and based off of information that comes from trusted sources. And then lastly, we cite to help readers find the original sources and learn more about our topics. So when we're writing a paper, at the very end we're going to have a references page, and this page will list every single source that you've used in your paper, and it will give all the details. So the author, the publication date, the journal, the publisher. This is so that your reader can go find that original research, go find the original document that you read and then you're using to defend your argument. This also just helps us identify other people who are writing and thinking about the same topic that we are. So next, what is APA style? So there's a couple of different citation styles that you might have heard of. APA and MLA are the two most common ones that you may have used in school. APA style was created by the American Psychological Association. That's where APA comes from. This citation style originated in 1929 from a group of psychologists, anthropologists, and business managers. APA style is commonly used in the following fields of study: social and behavioral sciences, healthcare, natural sciences, humanities, and more. But just because you don't study in one of those fields doesn't mean you can't use APA. It just means that it's common for those fields to use APA over other fields. So the benefits of using a citation style like APA means that you will have more uniformity and consistency when you're writing. So the way that you format your paper will be consistent. The way that you write your sentences should be rather consistent. And the way that you cite your information will be consistent. Because of this, it allows your readers to scan your paper quickly for key information, and it'll be a lot easier to read and engage with the information that you're sharing in a consistently formatted paper than not using a citation style at all. So in APA style, we have some basic formatting rules that we have to follow for every single APA paper that we write. So the first is that you should be using a 12-point font. This can be Times New Roman or Calibri. Those are the preferred fonts because they are easy to read both on the screen and printed out. Spacing should be double spaced. You don't want to add an extra space before or after your paragraphs. You can do this by going to the paragraph settings in whatever word processing software you're using, so Microsoft Word or Google Docs or even PowerPoint. Your margins should be 1 inch on your paper, and that's on all margins, top, bottom, left, right. You should align your text to the left margin. When you start a new paragraph, you should indent the first line by 1/2 inch, and that's the default setting for the tab button. And then lastly, you should have a page number in the upper right hand corner. And you can insert a page number by going to the Insert tab in your toolbar and then choosing page number, and then it'll let you choose where on the page you want it, and so you'll choose the upper right hand corner. All of these elements should happen on every single page. You want this to be consistent across your entire essay. So once we have the formatting figured out and we're ready to start writing our paper, we have to think about in-text citations. So in-text citations are used to indicate that the idea you're presenting is not your own. So this shows that this is the research that you've done on the topic, and the in-text citation tells us who the author is so that we can refer to your references page and find the full citation information in case we want to read that source as well. So in-text citations are used with both summary, so that's when you summarize or restate the original text, or with direct quotes, which is when you write word for word the original text from your source. So here's an example of a section of summary from a source. In this summary, I've included a narrative citation. So a narrative citation is when you use the author's names in the sentence, and when you do this, the publication date would be included right after the author's name in parentheses. So this example, according to the World Health Organization, so that's our author. And then in parentheses, we have the date, 2020, and then we have the rest of my summary. So in 2019, the top 10 causes of death, and I go on to list the top 10 causes. All of this information comes from the World Health Organization, a web page on their website, and I've summarized it into a easily readable, digestible sentence. So when we do summary paraphrase, we never include the text as it was written by the original author. That would be a direct quote. And we want to make sure that for our narrative citation here, again, the author is listed in the text with the date following. So next we have an example of a direct quote. This direct quote is using a parenthetical citation. So a parenthetical citation comes at the very end of the sentence, whether it's a direct quote or not, and the author and the date are listed in parentheses. So here's my example of a direct quote. Elder abuse is defined as, quote, a single or repeated act or lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship in which there is expectation of trust that causes harm or distress to an older person aged 60 years and older, end quote. Parentheses, World Health Organization, which is our author, comma, and our date. So it's in, and then end parentheses, and your punctuation. So your punctuation is always going to come after the parentheses of your citation. And within the parentheses, you're always going to separate your elements by commas. So it'll be parentheses, author, comma, date, comma, page number. So in here, it would be page number. If it were an article that had identifiable page numbers, or it'd be a paragraph number for like an online website, in which you would write P-A-R-A period, and then the number of the paragraph. You would just count from the first paragraph down sequentially, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what a direct quote looks like with a parenthetical citation at the end. So now I want you guys to practice this. On the website where you got the link to this video, there is links to some documents. One of them is called APA Style Workshop Worksheet. That just has a copy of this information here and gives you some space to write your answers. If you don't feel like pulling up that document, you can also write these answers just on a blank sheet of paper that you have, or in a separate window in your computer. So I want you to format your own in-text citation. Use the below information to write either a direct quote or a summary in-text citation. So the information on this page is from the American Heart Association, and it was published on June 26, 2023. And this information has been copied directly from their page. So I want you to just use this information to write either a direct quote or a summary, and you can choose whether or not you're using a narrative or a parenthetical citation. So take a moment, pause the video, brainstorm and write your in-text citation. The sentence doesn't have to be perfect. Focus on getting the in-text citation formatted correctly. So welcome back. Thanks for doing that little activity. Here we have two examples that I came up for either a summary or a direct quote. So yours don't have to be the same as this, but pay attention to how the in-text citation is formatted, because that's the important part here. So for my summary, according to the American Heart Association, so that's my author, parentheses 2023, so that's my date. Approximately 50 to 70 million Americans experience sleep disorders like insomnia, narcolepsy, restless leg syndrome, and sleep apnea, which can impact heart and brain health. So this is a narrative citation, which includes the author and the date in the text of the sentence. Next, my example of a direct quote. So it's estimated that, quote, 50 to 70 million Americans have chronic or ongoing sleep disorders, end quote, which can impact heart and brain health. Here we see our parenthetical citation, and then we have our author and our date, and they are separated by a comma, and the punctuation comes after the parenthetical citation. So for this one, what I should have done, and I didn't do, is it should have been author, comma, date, comma, paragraph number. So I messed up on my citation there. This is why it's important to proofread before you turn in your assignment. So those are your elements of an in-text citation. So for an in-text citation, we always include author, date, and page number if it's a direct quote. So we've talked about in-text citations. These in-text citations are going to correspond with an entry on your references page. So this references page comes at the very end of the document. Let's say you've written 7 pages and there's only like 3 sentences on the 7th page. You are going to enter down until you are at the very top of page 8, and that's where you'll start your references page. It's always started on a new page at the end of your essay. So this page, if you're familiar with MLA, it's usually called the Works Cited page, but in APA, it's called the References page. So you will have a title centered in bold, and you will label this page References. This page will be double-spaced, just like the rest of your essay. There will be no extra spaces before and after the paragraph. It will still have 1-inch margins. It will still have a page number in the upper right-hand corner. The one difference on this page is that each entry will have what's called a hanging indent. So we can see that over here, where the first line is flush left with our margin, but the corresponding lines at the bottom here for the entry are indented by a 1/2 inch. So a hanging indent is indented by oops, I spelled that wrong. Let me erase and correct that. So it'll be indented by a 1/2 inch. And then each references entry will be arranged alphabetically by the first word in the entry. So I'm going to erase this mark here, but then we can see that our first entry is Abdul and our second entry here is Fox. So you're just going to go alphabetically by the first word in the references entry. So you might be asking, well, what goes into this references page entry? So here are the basic elements of the reference page citation, and this will typically be the order that it's listed in when you write out your citation. So first will be the author or authors. In APA, you will list on the references page up to 19 authors. So 19 on references page. For in-text, 3 or more would be first author et al. And it's always author's last name. For the references page, it's going to be last name, comma, first initial. Then we're going to have the date of publication. We're going to have the title of the work, so whether it's a book title, journal article title, newspaper article title, so on. Then we'll have the source of the work, so that's where the article was published. So for a newspaper article, the source of work would be like the New York Times or the Chicago Tribune. For a journal name, it would be the Journal of the American Dental Association, for example. Then we'll have the volume and issue number if it's a periodical, so a periodical is a newspaper or a journal, and we'll have the page numbers on the references page. I forgot to add those. And then we'll have a URL or a DOI. So a DOI is a digital object identifier. That's a permanent link that's assigned to that particular article. They only do this with journal articles, so if it's a website or something, you'll have to use the URL. But for journals, you always want to include the digital object identifier, the DOI, if you can find it. And then we'll have page numbers, and that's not only for direct quote. So on the references page, you'll always include the page numbers for a journal. So here's this example at the bottom. I apologize for the weird outline around it that's cutting off some of the text. So we have our last name, comma, first initial, that's our author. We have our date in parentheses, period. We have our title of our work, so that's written in sentence case, which means only the first letter of the title is capitalized and everything else is lowercase. If there was a subtitle, the first letter of the subtitle would be capitalized and the rest would be lowercase. Then we have the title of the journal or the source. This is going to be in italics. The volume number, in parentheses the issue number. These will have no space between them. Then we'll have a comma, the page numbers. Then we'll have a period and either our URL and a DOI. So that's the common format of a journal article reference citation. So I want you to practice, again, using that worksheet or writing it down on just a spare piece of paper that you have. So this is a references page citation. What I want you to do is to identify each element that exists in here. So the author, the date, the title. I just want you to take a minute to get familiar with those elements and to be able to identify them. So go ahead, pause the video, take a couple minutes to identify the elements, and then unpause it and the answers will be on the next slide. So thanks for taking the time to do that little activity. So here are our answers. So the author is Lund, comma L. That's our format here. Since we took it from the references page, we don't know the full first name, but it's Lund, comma L. The date it was published is 2010. The title is An Integrative Model for the Analysis and Treatment of Insomnia. As you can see, it's in sentence case, except for insomnia. So the exception to the rule of sentence case is if something is a proper noun or an acronym like AMA for American Medical Association. Those are the exceptions where you can capitalize something. Then our journal title, which is our source, is the Scandinavian Journal of Behavior Therapy. The volume and issue is volume 29, issue 3 to 4. I forgot to write the page numbers down for this, but if you are curious, you can go to that DOI link and get more information about this article. And then we have our DOI at the end. And you know it's a DOI because DOIs always start with https://doi.org, and then it has a long number afterwards. So I want you to do another exercise on your own. What you're going to do, I've given you the author, the title, the publication, the date, the URL, which is actually a DOI. I want you to put these all together in a properly formatted reference page journal article citation. So go ahead and pause the video again. refer back to the last page if you need to, and format your own reference page citation, and then we will, you can unpause the video and check against my answer. So the first thing I want to point out with this, and you might not have known this, so it's okay if you didn't get it right, when you have multiple authors, you're going to list them out by last, comma, first initial, comma, last, comma, first initial, comma, ampersand, last, comma, first initial. So that ampersand will always come between the very last author and the one listed before it. This is the common format. Again, in this reference page, you will list up to 19 authors. If it's over 19, then you will put et al. Instead. So that's the author format. Then we have the date in parentheses afterwards, followed by a period. We have the title in sentence case, images of the self and self-esteem, colon. So this is our subtitle. Do positive self-images improve self-esteem and social anxiety? So our I in the main title and the D in the subtitle are capitalized. Cognitive behavior therapy is our journal title. Then we have volume number 41. There is no issue number, and we have our page numbers. Then we have our DOI at the very end. DOI. So that's a very basic overview of APA style. You might still have some questions at this point about some more detailed things, get into the nitty-gritty of APA style. You can contact the library by email any time of day. Library staff typically respond between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday because that's when we're in the office. We also have a website where you can go and find some additional resources. So our website is library.gfcmsu.edu. On the left-hand side of that website page, if you go to Find Library Resources and click on the Library Guides by Subject link, that'll bring you to some online guides, and we do have an APA style guide. So if you need some additional assistance with references page formatting or in-text citations, go ahead and visit that, or you can email the library and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Again, on the page where you found the link to this video, there are some other linked documents. Those were the handouts provided in the in-person workshop. There's a workshop worksheet. There is a APA style quick guide, so that's the formatting requirements for different types of sources for your references page. And then there is a APA sample paper. So if you want to see this all kind of put together and read a sample, go ahead and check out that APA sample paper. So go ahead and send me any questions that you might have, library@gfcmsu.edu. I hope this was helpful and it gets you a little bit more familiar with the basics of APA style. Thank you for your patience watching this video, and I look forward to hearing from you.